Okay, nobody's in the chat room. Okay, so let's see. It is the final day of the week, and hopefully you should all be glad for that. Hopefully your week has been uneventful. Mine, for the most part, has. So that's always a good thing. So as far as today goes, we're just going to touch on a couple of things. The video that you guys should have watched today would be one that would kind of give you some insight as to what things look like on the ground at an air freight terminal. Okay, when I say an air freight terminal, that's kind of a broad term, but that's the sort of thing that I'll tell you could be everything from a UPS, a FedEx, a DHL, an air freight company that we have over at the airport over here, an Atlas Air, a Southern Air, a Polar Air. Again, the difference between the two types of carriers that I just mentioned right there, those parcel carriers are ones that will, if you want them to, come to your place of business, pick them up, and then they will take stuff to their airport and then ultimately send it out to you. Okay, that is a parcel carrier, an overnight parcel carrier, or an air parcel carrier. Then I mentioned something else, an air freight company. Okay, that is oftentimes moving larger sized loads via the air. It's definitely going to be expensive, but it is something that sometimes you just have to do because you've got to move large quantities of freight. Okay, so two different types of carriers that we're talking about here, and this video that I've gotten for today is one that kind of shows just a little bit of everything that you might encounter. Okay, obviously there is a lot of focus on the loading and the unloading of the plane. We've touched on what loading the underside of the plane looks like. We've talked about what loading the interior of the plane looks like. We've talked about how it's very easy for freight to be able to come on and off of these planes, all in an effort to increase the speed at which freight is being able to be moved when we've got those airplanes on the ground. Again, I've mentioned that airplanes are expensive, and oftentimes these parcel companies or these air freight companies want to keep their planes busy and possibly earning money. Okay, another thing that is darn expensive about planes is that whole jet fuel thing. They don't quite burn as much as when they are up in the air. However, they burn quite a bit. They actually save a lot of fuel when they are up in the air, and they have all sorts of air rushing through the jet turbines. So, I mean, they're not really saving that much money. Kind of like you picture being down on the ground in a car and it's kind of idling. I will tell you that when you are sitting on the ground and the plane is running and you got the engines sort of idling, they're practically burning almost as much fuel as what they are up in the air. Strange as that may seem, it's just as expensive to have a plane sitting on the tarmac waiting to leave as it does just about everything else. So hopefully these carriers are trying to get rid of these planes and get them out of wherever they may be. Again, this might be an airport or a part of an airport. I mean, larger companies such as DHL, FedEx, and UPS are large enough that they actually have parts of the respective airports where they are based at. For DHL, their big sorting hub for air packages is right over here at CVG. For UPS, they have a part of the Louisville airport that is known as Worldport. FedEx has a very large portion of the Memphis, Tennessee airport. And that's where those three companies respectively are grabbing all of their air packages, consolidating them, shipping them, moving them, transferring around to other parts of the country. So this video gives you a little bit of insight as far as what that looks like, but also it has some examples of what's going on in an air freight terminal. This video is something that goes on at the airport of Hong Kong. It's got a lot of air freight carriers, although periodically in the background you can see large planes from these three respective parcel carrier companies that I just mentioned in the background there. So, I mean, these parcel carriers have presences at all airports, and oftentimes what they do is they are taking things from these far off airports and then bringing them, believe it or not, oftentimes all the way back to the United States to consolidate and then move them around. It's sometimes not unusual for an air package to maybe start in Illinois and it is going to someplace that might be 2 or 3 states away. But instead of going directly there, believe it or not, a lot of these parcel carriers, UPS, FedEx, and DHL, drag them back to their main sortation facilities, Memphis, Tennessee, Louisville, CVG, and they combine, consolidate, and then send them back out, all in an effort to be more efficient and to cut down on loads of planes moving, I guess, less than as full as they would like them, okay? So this video shot in Hong Kong, it shows a ton of good stuff. I'll mention a couple things in it, and then on Monday, I don't know if you've got visibility to this yet, but on Monday, you have got a video that actually shows an air parcel company's operations going on in, actually that is a UPS one. So you'll get to see what Worldport looks like. Very impressive operation. But today, this video of Hong Kong shows a great number of things that should be of interest to you, okay? Now, again, I say interest to you, it's worthwhile, okay? There's a lot of focus on the loading of planes, okay? I don't know if you remember seeing the scissor lift, and I'll tell you that the scissor lift, actually, I don't know if I can share my screen. I might just do that. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. You've watched the video, hopefully. But you can see how these scissor lifting type of devices are taking freight up and down from the ground and taking them either up or down to the doors in the side of the plane. Additionally, we mentioned that whole nose thing for planes that open up. Again, that's a specialized type of plane. Not every single plane is like that, but it's definitely something that you could encounter seeing. And like I have said, I've seen it over at the Cincinnati airport. It also kind of gives you an idea of how these containers that I showed you that sometimes show up in the bellies. And of course, I said bellies, and I guess I just want to make sure that somebody said, why am I talking about the belly? Okay, well, that's what I refer to as the underside of the plane. That might be, that's typical conversation talk in the world of air freight, okay? So the belly refers to the underside of the plane. And we saw one video that had a lot of how the loading of that went. Okay, you could imagine what a mess it would be if they were throwing in individual. Let's get somebody into the meeting. Okay, you would notice that it would be very difficult to, you have the possibility of losing freight if things were just loaded loosely, envelopes, packages. So what do? They stick them inside these aluminum or steel type containers that they then load in and out. And they oftentimes roll quite easily, so it's a good thing for the air freight and air parcel delivery companies. Okay, so a couple of things to touch on. I mean, there are oftentimes at these freight terminals I will call them trains. Okay, sometimes if you've ever flown on an airplane, if you glance out at the tarmac of the airport before you take off, or maybe after you've landed, you can see that there are all of these things that are pulling long trains, 5, 6, 7 cars along, that are moving these container products from one plane to another. And that's oftentimes what's going on in the types of air freight terminals like we're seeing here in Hong Kong. Okay, so I mean, you see a great deal of those types of things. It's very common, and that is how they live and die, because they don't have that those roller balls on the ground. So what do they have to do? They have to resort to rubberized wheels, just like a car or a truck. They load these containers onto these trains. They hook them all together. I mean, it's literally like a train, and I think the correct word for it, these are tugger trains. Okay, I've heard them referred to that by both people from air freight companies and also parcel companies that move things via air. But tuggers, these are things that are moving these containers around. Okay. Let's see. I mean, it just gives you an idea when you take a look at this video that I gave you for today. I mean, you see such a wide variety of names on these planes. And while there might be only a very few numbers of planes that are, while you might only see a few different types of air parcel carriers that are around, UPS, FedEx, DHL, there are countless air freight companies. When I throw around names like Atlas Air, Southern Air, Polar Air, those are ones that are primarily working out of the Cincinnati airport. But registered here in the United States, there are 87 different air freight companies that are listed at various airports around the country. Some of them big, some of them small, some of them using 747, some of them using much smaller planes, a couple of them using propeller type planes instead of jets. Okay, but again, it's all moving things via air, and they all have their little place in the world. Okay. In the business world, if you only need something to move several states away, but you still need it fast, maybe a propeller type of air freight company would work for you. If you only need a smaller amount of freight being moved, maybe perhaps you might utilize a company that utilizes smaller planes and might give you a good deal. If you've got a lot of stuff to move, you're probably going to have some sort of a company that uses very large freighters to move your product. Okay. Let's see. What else can we mention? I mean, this Hong Kong airport that the video shows us is, believe it or not, the largest cargo or air freight terminal in the world, largest one in the world. Okay, more freight moves via air from that airport in Hong Kong than anywhere else in the world. And that just gives you a very good idea of not only the fact that China is a very large market, but the fact that we have an awful lot of things that are purchased throughout the world that are coming from China and have to have some way to leave rather quickly if you don't want to throw them on a boat. Okay. Let's see. Another thing to mention, I mean, yeah, I can't emphasize enough how these air freight companies have multiple points of access to their planes, okay? Whether it be the underside belly of the plane, there's easily 2 or 3 different doors that you can load things into a plane for the belly. And then again, the same thing is true for the upper storage type area. And this is just something that allows the parcel carriers or the air freight companies to be able to load things simultaneously and of course, quicker. Okay, it gives you a pretty decent idea of how things are being moved on and off using, again, I describe them as scissor type of lifting devices. I'll show you something just in case I'm not being clear here in a moment. But I'll tell you that, yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of moving things going on, all in an effort to make things go faster. Okay, so another thing that I kind of liked about this video, the video shows kind of the inside of an air freight terminal. I gave you a picture of the inside of what looked to be maybe a FedEx type of terminal. And this is something that I'll tell you is something that has these roller type caster ball and caster type things on the ground. If yeah, I mean, it was a picture of them on the Wednesday schedule if you want to take a look at it. Okay, if not, that's fine. I'm sure you remember what we mentioned yesterday. But basically, the inside of this air freight terminal has lots of forklifts. Okay, now forklifts are great for moving things around rather quickly, and they're definitely utilized inside the terminals as well as out on the tarmac of the airport, moving things either onto one of these tugger or train types of pieces of transportation, or just moving things around inside the air freight terminal. Another good thing that it shows you is how the air freight terminal, again, whether it be a parcel terminal or whether it be a large air freight company terminal, it basically shows how one of these little pods or one of these storage type containers for the belly of an aircraft, as well as the upper portion of a cargo plane, would be loaded. Basically, if I was an air parcel carrier or even just an air freight carrier and I had business that was fairly small, it would not be unheard of to be combining shipments. Okay, it's definitely a fact of life for air parcel carriers. They deal with smaller types of shipments, but for these larger companies, they still want to be able to maximize the space. They want to be able to load it quickly, unload it quickly. These pods or these aluminum types of holding containers are able to be loaded by hand. You see a lot of scanning going on, as well as lots of weights and measures being taken. In the latter part of the video that I assigned for today, you are able to see a person that is very concerned about the weight and how things are being loaded by, if I remember correctly, a man and a woman who are putting boxes into one of these things. And the reason they are so concerned about this is another thing that you have to pay attention to in air freight companies is you want to evenly distribute the load. If we're talking about loading the belly of the plane, you are going to try and have it equally spread out weight-wise throughout front to back, whether it be the belly or perhaps the upper side, the concave side, the upper portion, or the convex side, the belly portion. Okay, evenly distributing weight. Okay. Yeah, but I mean, it just really shows how great of care they are taking with weights, the overall weight of these metallic pods that then get loaded very quickly onto planes. I mean, it shows that they're using kilograms on the scale. Of course, they're in China, and that's how they measure things with the metric system. But regardless, they pay great attention to it. And it's not unheard of. Oftentimes when you are getting things in from other airports, if you are working at an airport and a future type of internship, you will find that a lot of times you might be dealing with kilograms as opposed to pounds. Mr. Skeen is not too terribly good with his metric system, but I think a kilogram is more or less about 3 pounds. Okay, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the approximate weight of a kilogram or a kilo or something like that. Okay, let's see. Another thing that I thought was kind of interesting, I mean, obviously there's lots of scanning, lots of forklifts. Things are very well wrapped. If they are not going into one of these pods, when I say the term stretch wrap, I mean, think of that as being, I don't know how many of you have ever seen something like a sandwich or some sort of a treat from, I don't know, like a coffee shop or somewhere. I mean, I don't know. I worked at a school that once had a fundraiser and they were selling brownies, and somebody had wrapped up individual brownies in saran wrap. Okay. Stretch wrap, when I talk about that, I talk about that as being something that is very important because, again, you don't want freight to be falling off as things are moving in the air. A bad shift, if a couple pallets, if a plane has to take a very sharp turn, which sometimes it does, or even sometimes just a gradual turn can cause freight to shift. So basically, they are really making sure that these pallets do not shift, because if a plane is flying nice and straight and then it decides to turn nice and easily, and then all of a sudden inside the plane you have a couple thousand pounds all of a sudden lurch, it could cause the pilot and the plane to really wobble. Those of you that have flown know that it's not a terribly good thing when you hit turbulence. But when loads inside of a plane shift, it can really cause the plane to start to be out of control. And if things shift badly enough, it can really almost cause the plane to be completely out of control. So there's great care taken in getting these things secured when they go on to the planes. Okay. A couple other things, and then we'll be done for the day. But I will tell you, let's see. Oops, I should not have done that. But let's see here. I think one thing that I can't help but mention. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of scanning involved. As I said, people running around with, I call them RF guns. And these are things that allow them to scan barcodes and know exactly where things are at. Very important for an air freight company to make sure that everything that is supposed to be on the plane makes the plane. And as much as I'd love to say that humans don't make mistakes, humans make a heck of a lot of mistakes. That's why they oftentimes have to rely on computers in order to be able to make sure that nothing gets left behind. You don't want to be having a customer paying top dollar and then all of a sudden you have some guy forget to load it onto the plane. Not a good thing if that were to occur. Let's see. One of the last things that I'll mention, and this is something that I don't know where it's at in the video. It's somewhere near the end, but I'll tell you. You see these gentlemen that are standing inside this warehouse or this terminal for an air freight company, and they are very well dressed, and they're just kind of standing there, kind of overseeing the operation. These are oftentimes your managers and supervisors that are oftentimes walking around the air terminal, just overseeing how the loading, the unloading is going, making sure that things are happening the way they should. You've got lots of people that are working underneath the supervisors. You've got the managers overseeing multiple supervisors, but this is all in an effort to just make sure that things go the way they should. And if supervisors have employees that are making mistakes, and that will then make the supervisor not look so terribly good. That makes the supervisor want to make sure that they are keeping a close eye on things. I guarantee some of you, whether it be in the field of logistics, will be supervisors and managers over individuals that are doing processes and that you are ultimately going to be responsible for. If I am the manager of an air freight terminal, I'll tell you I'm going to make sure that things are going to go right, or it's going to reflect on me. Okay, so I'm going to be very engaged in the operation. If I'm a supervisor, I'm going to be walking around. I'm going to be trying to look at absolutely everything. If I'm a manager, I'm going to be looking and making sure that my supervisors have everything wired down, tied up, and ready to go, that nothing gets left behind. Okay, as the saying goes, it all kind of rolls downhill. And if you are the manager, you are oftentimes the person that's taken all of the glory, or if you've got people screwing up, you get to take all of the blame. Okay, so it's good to have people that are knowledgeable working for you, whether that be hourly associates that are loading things onto the plane, or whether that be supervisors that are overseeing the loading of the plane, or if you are a manager and you are overseeing 4, 5, 6 supervisors that are doing things in different parts of a warehouse, maybe some of them out on the tarmac of the airport. Very important to have good members of management. And like I said, guarantee you guys are going to be the future members of management. Whether you think that that's your future or not, every single industry has supervisors and managers. Whether you want to do something that is, I don't know, whether it be in the military, whether it be working for some type of an office, working in some sort of an office setting, whether you are working for some type of a city government entity, there's always people overseeing the process, and there are always people that get the glory, and there's always people that take the blame. Okay. Yeah, that's just the way it works. So if you find yourself in a position of management, again, supervisors or managers, or even something higher up the food chain, you got to make sure your people are doing what they're supposed to do, because it's all going to fall back on you. So unless you are really super sure that everybody's doing the right thing, guess what? You better make sure that you're engaged and catch mistakes, asking people, did you get all this freight? Hey, wait a second, what's that pallet over there? Wait a second, why isn't that on the plane? Tell me what's going on with that pallet. Okay. Crazy questions like that oftentimes jar the memory of, oh my gosh, I forgot that pallet. Okay. Again, we try to have all sorts of processes in place that keep mistakes from happening. But again, using processes with things like an RF device are just fail safes that allow mistakes not to happen. Okay. So, as I did mention, the upcoming Monday, we'll have something that'll be available for you to watch Air FreightWise. I will make that available as soon as possible. I realized that I had something set up for my afternoon class, but I did not actually set it up so far for the first class, or for the morning. So I will tell you, please check back in sometime. I'll say definitely before noon, and I'll have it available. I think right now it is only an 8-9 minute video, but I think it's a pretty interesting one. It's a UPS one. So take a look at that. Again, that is your only assignment for Monday. Again, I have given you guys some assignments. These are easy things in order to be able to get credit in Mr. Skeen's class. Don't miss out on this easy stuff. Okay, watch it, absorb it, listen somewhat passively to Mr. Skeen here, and some of this stuff will rub off. When it does get eventually time to take a test, take a quiz, I'll provide you with study types of materials, but it's always good to at least have some understanding and make it hopefully it's not the first time that you've seen this. Okay. Also, if any of you guys have any sort of feedback on these videos that I'm giving you, if it's causing problems or you can't access them, let me know. Okay. I want to hear about it before it is several days after. I don't want to hear Jennifer, or I don't want to hear Hassenfratz or Casey telling me, oh, Mr. Skeen, I just couldn't access that video from last Wednesday, and it's next Wednesday. Now, I want to hear about it as soon as you get it. Just shoot me an email, shoot me a text. Let me know, and I'll fix it, and I won't hold it against you, okay? Because Skeen, he makes mistakes as well, okay? A couple things on the horizon. Once I do publish the schedule for the upcoming week with the assignments on it, I should note that we are going to be having a training class that at some point, whether it be this upcoming week, I will probably be publishing, and I don't know how they're going to want to do it. There might be a training type of class that our counselors are going to be putting on that they'd like to be able to sit down with you guys. I think this is something that is going on statewide here in the great state of Kentucky, but definitely in the Boone and Kenton County school districts. So there'll be more information on that. I will communicate to you exhaustively once I get the full details of that. I'm going to be going to a meeting at 9:30, and that all of a sudden is something that I think will be impacting perhaps Mr. Ian Campbell. I think he has a meetup with me at that time. Ian, you and I will definitely need to talk. Akron, you are on this call. I've noticed that you have not set up a mentorship time. Hopefully everybody that is on this call has signed up for a meeting with me. I said that there is some conflict, so we will talk about that. Let me bounce over real quick, take a look at it. But for all intents and purposes, right now, I will tell you that we are done, but don't go anywhere just yet. Let me take a look at something here just to make sure that nobody has some issues with the attendance, but I'll tell you, I'm pretty sure that Ian is somebody that I'm going to need to jostle around his appointment. Ian, you are currently, pardon me, Logan Marsh, you are on this, correct, Logan? Let me hear your voice. I think I saw you.
Yeah.
Okay.
9:15.
Logan, you're set up at 9:15. I am going to, does meeting with me at 9:55, does that work? 40 minutes later?
Yeah, that works.
Are you sure? Okay. I'm going to click on this and I am going to remove you from that. And if you would sign up for 9:55, I would appreciate that. That would make Mr. Skeen's life a lot easier since I got a little appointment thrown at me late day yesterday. So 9:55 is still available. Nothing else should impact. I've still got Ian at 9:35. I have got Logan at 9:55. Following that is Keith at 10:15, 10:35. I've got Akerson. Then I have Owen Fitzgerald at 10:55. I do have an open slot at 11:15. Akron, that might just be an awesome place for you to hop in. Anyone else that is on here that does not have a session? Wait a second. I should also mention I have Jennifer at 11:35 and I have Tiana at 12:15. Okay, you should be able to look on your calendar, see this meeting that you have with me. Aside from Akron on this call, is there anybody else that does not have a time with Mr. Skeen? Anyone? Anybody? Okay, so if that, Akron, are you there? Let me hear your voice.
Yeah.
Okay, Akron, you're gonna have to stay on with me, and we will get you signed up for an appointment with me today. Okay.
All right.
So, yeah, so the upcoming week, you'll have some assignments that'll definitely be visible prior to noon. Please make a point to check in. Should have an 8-minute video due for Monday. No big deal on that. As far as everything else, we'll have probably a training session, and I will make things available to you. Whether we are doing that on Monday, whether we are doing that on Tuesday, I do not know, but I'm going to find out at my meeting. Okay, let's see. I will tell Ian that if for some reason my meeting runs long, I will tell you that we may just cancel your session with me, and we'll just make a point of meeting up. Okay.
No, I get what you're saying.
Okay, so I have no idea what I'm even in for here. So if it runs long, then I'll bug you sometime next week. Okay. So everyone can drop off. I wish everybody the absolute best as far as a weekend. And yeah. Oh, one last thing I do want to mention. I'm going to also find out some further information on this, and that is the visit that all of you will be making to Ignite. Okay. I'll publish some info about that. There is going to be like bus transportation. I don't know if any of you drive. You can drive directly to Ignite, I guess, and then leave from Ignite. I believe that's possible. I'll ask that question, but there is bus service that is being offered. I know that some of it is actually physically picking you up at home and bringing you in during what would be your actual class time, which here at Ignite would be from 8 o'clock in the morning until 10:30-ish, 10:45-ish. Those are times that you are technically here at Ignite. So during this exciting time of NTI, that's when we're going to have you come and visit school. So we already know you're available. You're working on all sorts of things with Mr. Skeen. Additionally, you're going to have time to in the future or right now to be working on Edgenuity. Okay. I will tell you that this upcoming week is going to be the first time that I will start to touch base with individuals on their progress that they are making in Edgenuity. Don't forget about it. As I said, your time that should be devoted to things going on here at Ignite is pretty much from 8 until 10:30, 10:45 time range. So, I mean, just see yourself that this is time that is an awesome time to be working on Edgenuity type stuff. And as I did mention to a couple people, if you are having difficulty with any of your Edgenuity classes or your logistics classes here, you need to mention it to Mr. Skeen, and I will find you resources to assist you with that, whether that be English, whether that be math, or in Mr. Skeen's case, logistics. Akerson, are you on here right now?
Yes, I'm on here.
Was that you that I was working with a math teacher for? I forget who that was.
I don't think that was me.
Who is there anyone on the call who I was working with? I can dig into my emails. My names are running together here. Was that Mr. Frazier? I'll find out here. Let's see here. But again, had an issue that I guess it was Brandon. Brandon, are you on here? Brandon. He was on here. Okay. Well, anyway, Brandon said that he was having difficulty with a math concept that Edgenuity wasn't doing such a hot job with a teacher, and all of a sudden we got him hooked up, and I think they had a video conference yesterday, or it's going to be occurring this morning to help him with his Edgenuity question. Okay, so if you got problems, if you got questions, let me know, and I'll find you a resource until we get an A math teacher for your assistance. And heck, who knows? Maybe I can even help you with English. You never know. Okay, so I will say no more. Akron, you're staying on with me. Anyone have any questions of Mr. Skeen?
So will you send out the information about like buses and all that?
You better believe it. You can't hop on a bus unless I tell you where and when to hop on. Okay, so yeah, I'll make sure that occurs. Okay.
All right.
All right. So Akron, you hang out with me, and wait a second. Where is he? He's gone. Okay. Anyway, I wish you guys the best, and I will see you Monday. Okay, guys.
Have a good weekend.
All righty. You guys definitely have a good weekend. Okay. Bye-bye.